For today's cup of coffee, enough of the light and fluffy. So it's one of those. This one is actually, but it does tie into the previous cups because we do that. Or at least I see how it does that. And it's actually going to tie in with previous cups, 1526 Hippies, part of Covert Ops, and 1528 Charlie Manson as an experiment. Because these are theories as far as him being part of MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
And for today, you know, we were talking about were they alive, were they dead, and as far as Jim Morrison. So our subject is going to be Laurel Canyon, military intelligence family backgrounds of the iconic 60s counterculture rock stars. That's a hell of a title. And this was written by Russ Winter on May 13th of 2020. And his website is Winter Watch. And so the link will be in the description box. Plus, we'll put links to these previous cups. Folks on Odyssey, I don't know whether, you know, I had stopped trying to upload on Odyssey for a while. So you all may have to go back to YouTube to watch these. They're on BitChute someplace, but I don't have a playlist. I don't have a playlist on BitChute, but you could try to find them there.
Yeah.
If you don't want to deal with ScrewTube. I understand that.
ScrewTube.
Yeah.
ScrewTube.
So, this article starts out with a note, and Mr. Winter said that the source of the information contained in the following post comes from Dave McGowan's book, Inside the LC, the strange but mostly true story of Laurel Canyon and the birth of the hippie generation. And Mr. Winter says that he has surveyed the key points as related to the iconic counterculture rock stars that emerged out of Los Angeles' Laurel Canyon. And so I have edited his edit. But because it's all good, because it's a matter of commentary on these things.
Exactly. Make it your own in a way.
Right.
But still give credit.
And as somebody that is Gen X,
BPC, but not too PC.
Yeah, I was right there on the cusp of some of these things.
Uh-huh.
As far as the hippie movement, you would see it on TV, but it being in our region, no, because, you know, it just, things like that were a lot of times for urban areas more than rural areas. We have a tendency to pretty much stay the same with some of our culture, especially here in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, stay the same. Keep traditions alive.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. It depends on the tradition.
Yeah.
There are some of them that need to go. But anyhow, this gentleman, Mr. Winter, starts out and he was saying that Dave McGowan died in 2015 at the age of 55 of a fast-growing pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
And that wouldn't be that abnormal, except that I was reading yesterday about Bob Marley.
Uh-huh.
And he was very vocal as far as, what the governments were doing to the country and stuff like that.
Right.
It was reported that he had been gifted with a new pair of, one of them said boots, one of them said shoes, whatever it was, and that when he put them on, that there was a piece of wire in the shoes or whatever that pierced his foot. And later, he suddenly developed a form of cancer. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. And he's not the only one. There's been other people that mysteriously developed fast forms of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've always got these oppositional pieces. They're like, oh, well, he had something about his thumbnail and that it was reported that he had cancer before he knew he had cancer and blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of questions there about this. And in our day and time, would I be apt to believe that there are forms of cancer that is transmissible?
Oh, yeah.
I've thought that for a long time. I think cancer is a catch-all term for something, and there are various and sundry causes of whatever this disease is, that they're just lumping it all together.
Yeah.
And for a very long period of time, especially naturopaths, that anybody who has said that they have a treatment or a cure for these things were silenced. Quickly. Usually by being killed. They had mysterious deaths.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which we all know they're not mysterious.
Well, yeah. Anyhow, the magician's trick. Look over here while I do all this shit on the other side that's out of your vision.
Exactly.
Now, Dave McGowan also studied a lot of different things, and as far as the harming of children as part of an elite characteristic, there was, by the crime syndicate or the cabal. There's a lot of people that do this stuff about the cabal.
Right.
One of the best is on BitChute, because I think that YouTube banned her. Mm-hmm. And I think on YouTube it was called Fall of the Cabal, but on BitChute it's just called Fall Cabal. And the lady is maybe from Holland or something. Uh-huh. She's phenomenal. So if you want a lot of these things to connect, go back. I think she's like up to 22 or 23 on videos, and they're kind of lengthy, but they're very well researched.
Okay, as long as they got good information and they're somewhat entertaining,
I don't know that you'd call it entertaining, but it definitely is informative.
I do not want to sit through
a
lecture.
It's not a lecture. I mean, it is a really good presentation. It's very professionally done. She has the references on these things, so it's not like she's pulling this out of her ass.
I never said that she was.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
You should try to listen to one or two of them just to see. You go down these rabbit holes too.
Maybe.
But anyhow, so it says that McGowan also, had delved into 9/11. Yeah.
There's a lot of
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
See, that's one of those when it's been done over and over and over. I see no point in redoing that. Mm-hmm. Because there's other people that's going to do it better than our porch ponderings.
I don't know. There's some people that have come up with really, really, what is it called?
I don't know. Enlightenments?
No.
Understandings?
No. Convincing. Very convincing, theories via porch ponderings.
Well, that's true. But it's like, there used to be a show that was about how people did demolition. Mm-hmm. And especially these high-rise buildings and stuff like that. And what they would do, they would set the charges and the building would pancake down to prevent it from, being destructive to the other buildings near it. And it was fascinating.
Yeah.
And when 9/11 hit, and I watched that, and I'm like, damn, I've seen that before. I know exactly what that is. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other people that they're like, no, this is bullshit. And it was.
Yeah, but either way, people died.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was absolute tragedy.
It was a horrific thing, because you've got to realize that, the average people have been used as cannon fodder for years.
Yeah. Needlessly.
Yeah. Because the
Those
elite...
people did not deserve...
No, they didn't.
...what happened to them.
Well, and it's like some of the first...
And it's disgusting what happened to them.
Sure. Some of the first responders, as far as the dust and different things like that, they ended up with life-shortening illnesses. Mm-hmm. Because there wasn't time to run out and try to get a respirator or something. When you're trying to help somebody, the last thing that you think about is personal safety.
Yeah.
And so it was a matter of sacrifice. And so, no, I mean, as far as taking away what these people did, absolutely not. Holding people accountable that did this stuff to the other people, I think that's what all of us are praying for, is justice.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
So this gives you a little bit of background on McGowan, and could he have been one that was off. Well, yeah, that would have been pretty easy. So Mr. Winter has within this, we'll just go into this because it's been a longly, but it needed the longly intro to explain what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. And he says that the following is a condensed, abridged version of key takeaways from McGowan's book inside the LC. It says, in a geographically and socially isolated community known as Laurel Canyon, a heavily wooded, rustic, serene, yet vaguely ominous slice of L.A. nestled in the hills that separate the Los Angeles basin from the San Bernardino Valley. Musicians, singers, and songwriters suddenly began to gather.
Yeah, right.
And it says within months, the hippie flower child movement will be given birth there, along with a new style of music that will provide the soundtrack for the tumultuous second half of the 1960s.
Woodstock.
It was the major record labels, not independent artists or labels, that signed Laurel Canyon's newly formed bands. It was the major labels that provided them with instruments and amplifiers, studio time, and session musicians. Now, the bands themselves were initially lacking in skilled musicians and were very manufactured. It says it was the major record labels that also recorded, mixed, and arranged the albums, and that they were released and then heavily promoted. Also, the corporate titans of all three branches of the mainstream media, print, radio, and television, did their part to help out in getting the music promoted and seen and heard and all that stuff. So it was an orchestrated thing.
Yeah.
And so we can see that these hippie movements were not organic. Yeah. Mm. And the band's members also, during this of the counterculture movement, were never arrested for very long on drug charges. Because that was one of the, don't eat the brown acid.
Yeah.
And none of them were ever drafted for the Vietnam War. Yeah.
That's sucky.
The bands were largely indifferent to the anti-war movement, and there were large numbers of strange deaths in this scene. It says, during the early years of Laurel Canyon's father figure was Frank Zappa. And if you're not familiar with Zappa, and Youngest Kid was not, Zappa was bizarre. He was truly an odd person. And one of the, I never really listened to his stuff. The most memorable song that he did in my world was Why Does It Hurt When I Pee?
Dear God.
It's like everybody needs a song about gonorrhea. It says that even though he and his various band members of the Mothers of Invention never attained commercial success, Zappa was a hugely influential figure amongst his contemporaries. Now, somehow at the age of 25, Zappa himself had inherited this dwelling that was called the Log Cabin, which was in the heart of Laurel. I don't know why I keep saying Laurel Canyon. So that's going to be a problem. Now, this log cabin was a 5-level home that featured over 2,000 plus square foot in the living room.
That ain't no cabin.
Right, with 3 massive chandeliers.
That's a fucking mansion.
And
that
an
ain't
enormous floor-to-ceiling stone fireplace.
That's a mansion.
Oh, yeah.
That ain't no cabin.
Exactly. Zappa also
let alone a log cabin.
discovered and signed numerous acts. Now, this one broke my heart, including Alice Cooper. Yeah, my heart kind of stopped on that one just for a minute. And it says Zappa never really made a secret that he had nothing but contempt for the hippie culture, and that he even helped to create and surrounded himself with. Okay, if you hate a thing, are you going to hang out all the time with people that are part of that thing?
No.
Unless you've got an agenda. And it says, by numerous accounts, he was a rigidly authoritarian control freak. Well, that's sort of redundant, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a supporter of U.S. military actions in Southeast Asia. And not only that, he never used drugs. So he's hanging out with all these people that's doing all this stuff because LSD was a huge thing back then.
Yeah.
Heroin was a huge thing.
Cocaine. Well, that was more 80s.
And that was more 80s. Yeah, that was more disco scene. As far as the marijuana, which actually that should have never been made illegal. But anyhow, then we get into Zappa's father, Francis, was a chemical warfare specialist assigned to the Edgewood Arsenal.
Wow.
And this is the longtime home of America's chemical warfare program, as well as a facility frequently cited as being deeply enmeshed in MK Ultra operations. And Frank Zappa literally grew up at the Edgewood Arsenal, and he lived there the first 7 years of his life in the military housing there on the grounds of the facility. Now, the family later moved to Lancaster, California, near Edwards Air Force Base, where Francis Zappa, the daddy, continued to busy himself doing classified work for the military intelligence complex.
Damn.
I don't believe in coincidence.
No, there is no coincidence on that.
It says later in life, Zappa went off the rails and spoke frankly about his role as an actor in this charade and provided insights into what was going down in the real world. Like David McGowan.
Say it right.
I'm trying. Like David McGowan, Zappa died of a virulent form of cancer at age 52.
Because he was about to give away all the secrets.
Oh, yes. Now, Zappa's manager had come to L.A. from the Bronx, and his name was Herb Cohen. Cohen was a former U.S. Marine and had spent a few years traveling the world, which had taken him to the Congo in 1961 at the very time that leftist Prime Minister Patrice, I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, Lumumba was being tortured and killed by the CIA. Now, according to one of Zappa's biographers, Cohen wasn't in the Congo on some kind of intelligence mission, but he was there supposedly to supply arms to the people that was fighting against the government in defiance of the CIA. Right.
Bullshit.
Absolutely.
Bullshit button.
Now, Frank's wife, Gail Zappa, formerly known as Adelaide Sloatman, I would rather be a Zappa than a Sloatman.
Yeah.
She came from a long line of career naval officers. Her father, who spent his life working on classified nuclear weapons research for the U.S. Navy. Now, is it just a matter of Army brats? I don't think so. No. Now, Gail herself had once worked as secretary for the Office of Naval Research and Development, and supposedly she had told an interviewer at some point that she had heard voices all her life.
So she's schizophrenic.
I don't know. Maybe. And she had attended a naval kindergarten with Jim Morrison.
The fuck?
Yeah. And it says Jim Morrison had later attended the same Alexandria, Virginia high school as John Phillips and Cass Elliot. Mamas and papas.
Yeah.
Now, Jim Morrison's father, George S. Morrison, commanded the fleet during the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which was a false flag. That's proven. That's not conspiracy. That's for real. That led to an escalation of the Vietnam War. And aboard the flagship carrier Bonhomme Richard, I hope I've pronounced that right, Daddy Morrison commanded American naval forces in the Gulf when the destroyer Maddox engaged 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats on August the 2nd, 1964. A skirmish and confused reports of a second engagement 2 days later led President Lyndon B. Johnson to order airstrikes against North Vietnam and requests from Congress what became known as the Tonkin Gulf Resolution, allowing him to carry out further military operations without declaring war, which police action, I do believe, was the term that they used. So in other words, it was all bullshit that dragged. It has happened more than once. And propaganda and, oh, we got to do because this is what's going on, and people don't know shit about what's going on.
Yeah.
Or the reasoning behind these things. Now, Jim Morrison had no real interest in music, nor did he play instruments. So I think that's a little bit odd, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, now out of this Laurel Canyon bunch, the first album to make it big was by the Byrds, whose biggest star will be David Crosby. David Crosby is an odd character. And I can't help, but I don't remember who it was. Some comedian said that, how in the world could you have respect for somebody that was a cocaine addict and yet still fat?
My God.
I don't remember. Years
horrible,
ago I heard
Mama.
that.
That's
horrible. I just repeated it. Were you going to say something?
No.
You were just laying in. It says the band's debut effort, Mr. Tambourine Man, was released on the summer solstice of 1965.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, but
I need to go back and see exactly when the solstice was, since that was the year of my birth. That would be weird, but not unheard of. It says quickly this release would be followed by things from John Phillips, who led the Mamas and the Papas, and then Love with Arthur Lee. I don't know if that's an album or what, or if it was a group. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, and then Buffalo Springfield, who featured Stephen Stills and Neil Young. Neil Young, Southern Man Don't Need You Around anyhow. He showed his ass lately, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Doors in 1967. So for all these people to, especially when it is a new genre of music, yes, there are people that will jump on the bandwagon, but not when it had deviated that greatly from the other style of music. Papa John Phillips, more so than probably any of the other residents of Laurel Canyon, played a major role in spreading the emerging youth counterculture across America, and his contribution was twofold. First, he co-organized, along with Manson associate Terry Melcher, the famed Monterey Pop Festival, which through unprecedented media exposure gave mainstream America first real look at the music and fashions of the hippie movement.
Yeah.
Now, what age group does that usually appeal to?
That's the teens and
Early
yeah.
20s and stuff like that. Then, Phillips also wrote and inspired the song known as San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair, which will quickly rise to the top of the charts. And along with the Monterey Pop Festival, the song would be instrumental in luring the disenfranchised, a preponderance of whom were underage runaways, to San Francisco to create the Haight-Ashbury phenomenon of the famed 1967 Summer of Love. Sounds like a recipe for some brainwashing right there.
Yeah.
John Edmund Andrew Phillips was another child of the military intelligence complex, the son of U.S. Marine Corps Captain Claude Andrew Phillips, and a mother who claimed to have psychic and telekinetic powers. John attended a series of elite military prep schools in Washington, D.C. area, and he was appointed to the prestigious U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis.
Okay.
And all of a sudden he's going to become a rock star,
Yeah.
a pop star.
Yeah. That does not.
No, it doesn't. John married Susie Adams, a direct descendant of founding father John Adams. Don't know about the connection with the beer company. But anyhow, Susie's father, John Adams Jr., had been involved in what Susie described as cloak and dagger stuff with the Air Force in Vienna. So then you've got all this secret society shit tied in with all this also. Mm-hmm. And what is also called is covert intelligence operations. And Susie herself worked for the Pentagon along with John Phillips's older sister, oldest sister Rosie, who worked for the complex for nearly 30 years. John's mother, Dean Phillips, also worked for most of her life for the federal government in some unspecified capacity. Now, how the hell do you put that on a tax form?
Don't.
Job title, unspecified.
Yeah.
Before, of course, hell, these people don't pay taxes. What am I talking about? Before succeeding, before succeeding in his musical career, Phillips found himself in some rather unusual places, such as Havana, Cuba, where Phillips arrived at the very height of the Cuban Revolution. Now, during those days, that is not someplace that you wanted to be, because let's talk about the Castro there for a minute. He was not a nice guy.
No, he wasn't.
Even though you've got idiots today because they don't know history, they don't want to talk to some of the older people.
They don't want to hear jack shit.
That he was recently hailed as a hero, and I'm thinking there were some of the Cuban Americans that they wanted to just absolutely pummel, absolutely, and should have, because they lived through that mess. Okay, and another of Laurel Canyon's earliest and brightest stars was Stephen Stills. And Stills was a founding member of two of Laurel Canyon's most acclaimed and beloved bands. That would be Buffalo Springfield, which I was ignorant. I didn't know that he was part of that band. And then Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And Stephen Stills was a product of yet another career military family. And he was raised partly in Texas, but he spent large portions of his childhood in El Salvador, Costa Rica, the Panama Canal Zone, and other parts of Central America, along, with his father. Yes, let's raise a child in some of these places.
Yeah.
Stills was educated primarily at schools on military bases at elite military academies. Now, these people teach you a whole hell of a lot more than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that he was, according to his contemporaries in Laurel Canyon, he was widely viewed as having an abrasive authoritarian personality. So with him and some of the other ones, it was like that. Now, that don't sound like summer of love to me.
No.
That sounds like boot camp.
Yeah.
And that's Stephen would later tell people that he had served time in Vietnam. And let me tell you something. The children of these high-ups, oh, hell no.
Fuck y'all.
Well, it's just a matter of, Creedence Clearwater's song, Fortunate Son. Yeah. And David Crosby, he was the son of an Annapolis graduate and World War II military intelligence officer who was Major Floyd Delafield Crosby. And Floyd Crosby spent much of his post-service time traveling, including the 1927 U.S. Marine occupation of Haiti.
Yeah. Well,
Now, bear with me on the pronunciations of some of these things, because I think that they're Nordic or something, so you know how I do on this. David Van Cortlandt Crosby is closely intertwined with Van Cortlandt, Van Schuler, and Van Rensselaer families. And it says if you type those in Wikipedia, that you can read up on the power wielded by this clan for the last 2.25 centuries.
Centuries.
So that sounds like some elites right there.
Yeah.
And the Crosby family tree includes an array, they said a dizzying array, of U.S. senators and congressmen, state senators, assemblymen, governors, mayors, judges, Supreme Court justices, Revolutionary and Civil War generals, signers of the Declaration of Independence, and even members of the Continental Congress. And so all that, and dude's going to be a pop star? I think not. I think not. His family would have stopped him from that unless it had some, other reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
And it says the family line also includes more than a few high-ranking Freemasons.
Of course.
Now, the Freemason thing I have not gotten into either, because I know people that are in the Masonic lodges at low levels, and they have no clue.
You should look into it.
Oh, well, I know, but some of these people, you don't want to
they know.
hurt them.
They know.
The low-level ones that thinks it's just a social club, I've known people that I don't think they have a clue that they know what they're doing. At least let me remain ignorant, including a pastor friend of ours over the past few years, and it was just sort of heartbreaking. But we pray for that person and we go on. Anyhow, this Stephen Van Rensselaer III reportedly served as Grand Master of Masons for New York. And then, according to the New England Geological Society, David Van Cortlandt Crosby is also a direct descendant of Founding Fathers and Federalist Papers authors Alexander Hamilton and John Jay. I don't know if they were Masons or not. I know that there were quite a few of the Founding Fathers that were Freemasons. See, you've gone down that rabbit hole, haven't you?
Not really.
Well, and it says another one to come out of the Laurel Canyon scene was singer-songwriter Jackson Browne. You had to look into some of his stuff. He had quite a few hits there in like the 80s and stuff. He was pretty much big time. And his father was assigned to post-war reconstruction work in Germany, which very likely means that he was then in the employment of the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. And then you got Mike Nesmith of the Monkees.
The Monkees.
And Corey Wells of Three Dog Night, that they were also involved with this Laurel Canyon mess, that both arrived in L.A. not long after serving time with U.S. Air Force. Now, Nesmith also inherited a family fortune estimated at $25 million. His mother invented whiteout.
Yeah, I think you told me about that.
I did. And then it says that Graham Parsons, I don't know if that's of the
Did they still
Parsons
make whiteout?
Yeah, well, I don't know. People were sniffing it.
Don't fucking sniff it. It's the same as nail paint.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you cannot. People will find a way to hurt themselves.
Who huffs nail polish?
My God, who knows?
Because that's no different than what whiteout is.
Yeah. Graham Parsons, who would briefly replace David Crosby in the Byrds before fronting the Flying Burrito Brothers. I can honestly say I have never heard anything by these people,
Brothers.
at least to my knowledge, was the son of Major Cecil Ingram Coondog Connor II, a decorated military officer and bomber pilot who reportedly flew over 50 combat missions. Parsons was also an heir on his mother's side to the formidable Snively family fortune, and that's said to be the wealthiest family in the exclusive enclave of Winter Haven, Florida. The Snively family was the proud owner of Snively Groves Incorporated, in which they reportedly owned as much as 1/3 of all the citrus groves in the state of Florida. Now, point being that you've got a bunch of, supposedly you've got a bunch of hippies that are living together in a commune that have millions of dollars, and that they're hanging around with the likes of Charles Manson and some of these other folks.
Yes.
And that there was not some kind of insidiousness going on. That's why, as far as going back to the video where there's the strong possibility that Charles Manson was involved in MK Ultra at some point, at some level.
Oh, yeah.
And that the whole hippie movement very much could have been orchestrated CIA or something like that. Part of it was the agenda of helping to destroy the cohesiveness of America. Because when you've got kids rebelling against their families, rebelling against what is considered, the society of the time, a house divided cannot stand.
No.
And so this stuff has been going on for a long time. Like I said, the destruction of the family and different things like that. And kids go through phases. It's like, oh, so and mama don't know anything, daddy don't know anything, until the kid matures enough, and then they're going, oh, hell, they're not as dumb as I thought they were.
Oh, yeah.
And that still is going on. And so now you've got children trying to raise children. Well, that goes back to the blind leading the blind, and both of them falling into a ditch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, interesting stuff. Does it relate to some events that's going on today? I believe it does.
Yeah.
So, but these are just my opinions.
It's your feelings. It's your opinions.
It's backwoods, redneck, hillbilly.
Alright.
Well, they've already told us that we in our culture, we don't know shit anyhow, so.
That's true.
That's all right.
Yeah,
but I thought that was
we're ignorant.
No, that's all right. That I would rather be
let them think
absolutely, because being underestimated is a great strategy. So that's it.
All right.
Did I blow your mind with that one? I haven't done my spiel. Let me do my spiel.
Well, yeah, I was waiting for you. Oh, damn, you just sitting there silent. Did you have another brain fart?
No, not on that. I've just had the headache all day, so I'm trying to deal with that. If you've had experiences with paranormal, supernatural encounters, UFOs, aliens, cryptids, if you know more about the Laurel Canyon stuff that you would like to share, if you have local, regional, family, myths, legends, send all those things to us, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com. We always appreciate when you have porch ponderings and coffee sippings with us.
Yes.
Know that you're loved.
Yes. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe and click that notification button for daily notifications of our daily uploads. Thank you all, and have a good.
There you go.
Yes.
You all have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye.
Or whatever. That's why I said good.